basketball and hockey all overlap. But getting a job in the sports industry is always a challenge. But it can be done without connections if you approach the process with all the focus, intelligence, and creativity that you can muster. First, avoid the big job boards. Go directly to the team or league's own site. They each have careers pages that list all the jobs. When you see the opening, after all, many teams need accountants, salespeople, and a full roster of workers. Avoid the temptation to emphasize how much you love the team or how happy and excited you would be to work there. That's not a reason for the team to hire you. Instead, put your enthusiasm to constructive use. Closely review the job description. Delete your generic resume and energetically create a resume that is tailored to that particular job. Craft a resume with your most relevant highlights. The team become a fan of yours. With your next job, I'm Stephen Greenberg.
In the car, at the gym, wherever you go. CBS News Radio.
I'm Tony Nicole. Hospitals across the country are seeing a spike in patients with RSV. That's an acronym that hospitalizes nearly 60,000 children every year under the age of 5. CBS News contributor Dr. Celine Gounder is here with what you need to know. She's an epidemiologist and editor-at-large at KFF's Kaiser Health News. Dr. Gounder, thank you for being here. RSV, what does it stand for? What is it?
Respiratory syncytial virus, RSV. So this is another one of these cold viruses, kind of affect your upper respiratory airway, so that would be the nose, the throat. In that case, it causes a runny, stuffy nose, a cough, sore throat. But when it gets into the lower airway, so the bronchi, the lungs, little kids, that causes bronchiolitis, pneumonia, that can be a lot more dangerous.
Why does it affect little kids and how do they get it?
Well, when little kids get it, especially infants, they don't have mature immune systems, so they're not able to fight it off as well, and they have much smaller airways. So when you get inflammation in the airways, they get thicker. When you get mucus, you get plugging, so they just run into.
But how do they get it though? It's just one of those things?
It's one of these viral respiratory infections, so it's through the air, through droplets, just like you might get COVID or the flu.
How do we recognize it? What are the warning signs?
What's so scary about young kids is that they're very noisy breathers in general.
Yeah.
We're doing some work in the house right now, so Eloise is back in our room.
We don't know if it's a cough or a running nose.
It's like grandma snoring in the next room.
Yeah, you're right.
That loud.
And sometimes you ignore it as a parent because it seems normal.
So when does the normal noisy breathing of an infant become problematic?
Well, so if the baby's not feeding as well, if the baby's irritable, and then there are certain respiratory signs that you would really worry about. So if they're gasping, if they're wheezing, if they're coughing so much they can't really get a good breath of air, I would really start to get worried at that point.
Why are we seeing an increase now? Because I'd never heard of RSV before.
Well, I think a lot of parents of little kids will be familiar, and then the elderly also get pretty severe RSV. The reason we're seeing a big surge now is during the pandemic, we were masking, we were social distancing, and so you have all these little kids that were never exposed, and they're all getting exposed all at once.
So what should a parent do if they see symptoms?
RSV, is this COVID, is this the flu, without a test? And so just like for COVID, we have the PCR test, we have the antigen test, which are the ones that you use at home.
Yeah.
We have similar tests for RSV. The only thing though is, we have those at-home tests for COVID.
Yeah.
They don't exist, the at-home tests don't exist for RSV. That would be a really nice tool for parents to have. Okay. Unfortunately, right now, you do have to go into a pediatrician or to the hospital.
Going in.
If you have those, if you have those warning signs, I would definitely go in and get your child
Do they
tested.
test them through the nose or is it a blood test?
This would be through the nose.
The nose.
Yeah, you would get a swab, just like for COVID,
Just like
the flu. Yeah.
All
The
right.
hits keep coming, doesn't it?
Never ends.
No.
It's not one thing, it's the other thing, or the other thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Celine Gounder, thank you so much.
This is CBS News Radio.
An upgrade for Lexus in the big SUV competition. This is Jeff Cooper with the Car Chronicles. An all-new version of Lexus LX aims to take on segment leaders, the Lincoln Navigator and Cadillac Escalade. Lexus Vice President DeJuan Ross says it's off to a good start.
We've been pleasantly surprised by our LX sales this year.
The LX has an improved interior, a more subdued styling, and more technology.
Technology improvements for LX versus previous generation were very obvious in the vehicle. So I think that technology plus the exterior is very striking.
The Lexus LX follows its sister vehicles, the RX and NX, in getting a complete
numbers of Russian men, causing very long lines at the country's borders. Anyone who avoids a draft there can face as much as 10 years in prison. Chris Livesay traveled to the neighboring country of Georgia, where tensions are high as Russians are. Your heads up here that some of the images in his report are difficult to watch.
Hundreds of thousands escaping the fighting in Ukraine. But they're not Ukrainians. Instead, Russians fleeing the draft at home by flooding the border into Georgia. Believed to avoid the bloodbath of their own country's making, new arrivals crowd into a support group where they learn how to get a bank account, get a cell phone, and simply get by in Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. One of them, Alexei, takes us to the shelter he now calls home after driving 7 days from Moscow. Best song? With little more than his guitar. Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters. Anything. Better that than a rifle, he says. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters! His roommate Skobar flew, then pedaled his way by bike after the government told him to report for military training.
It was late because I'm a student, because I'm only 21 years old, and I got nothing to do with any army stuff. Because I don't want to go to the army and go to the war and die and kill people, I guess.
But at an anti-Putin rally in the capital, Georgians fear the Russian draft dodgers are a Trojan horse. All of these Russians, hundreds of thousands of them virtually overnight, clearly isn't sitting well with everyone in Georgia. Those here see it as yet another form of Russian invasion, and they're calling for the border with Russia to be closed. Georgia is no stranger to Russian invasion. In 2008, Putin attacked by land, air, and sea, allegedly to protect Russians living here. To this day, 20% of the country remains occupied.
We know how Putin starts wars.
So you're afraid that Georgia could be...
He can come and say, we need to send our soldiers to save the lives of our citizens in Georgia.
But in Putin's army, morale has never been lower. Following staggering defeats in Ukraine, troops are retreating and surrendering. And to dodge the draft, conscripts are so desperate, they're even breaking their own arms and legs, as this video is said to show.
The fear, it's like not something rational, not something logic. You just someday wake up and start to feel it.
Skobar knows how lucky he is to be in Georgia.
That Putin can't kill me, or I am not in jail, I'm not arrested.
How long do you think you're going to be here?
I don't know. I want to work on my job. I want to meet my family and my girlfriend. So I guess I'll be turned back when Vladimir Putin will be dead. And I will be just fine.
Chris Livesay, Tbilisi, Georgia.
Be a part of our network. Visit us at CBS News Radio on Facebook.
Paying off credit card debt is a great goal, but don't compound the problem by going about it the wrong way. I'm Craig McBride with thebankrate.com Personal Finance Minute. For one thing, don't think that paying only the minimum payment will get the job done. This will take forever, and the interest charges can easily double your total payback. Don't tip into your retirement accounts to wipe out what you owe on credit cards. Withdrawals are taxable, subject to early withdrawal penalties if you're under age 59 and a half, and you're dealing yourself a permanent setback to retirement planning. Don't completely your emergency savings to pay off credit card debt either. You need that money in case of a real emergency like a job loss, and not to pay off credit card debt from a vacation that you really didn't have to take. Tapping the equity in your home puts your house at risk if you have trouble making the payments. And more importantly, never skip a mortgage payment to reduce credit card debt.